Hey guys, Sanjo here, and just to warn you, this video does have spoilers, so if you haven't read Harry Potter, I would skip this video and go read it. So I just finished the Harry Potter series for the third or fourth time or something like that, and this time something stood out to me that I had never gotten out of it before. It was in the conversation that Harry and Dumbledore have in King's Cross Station right after Harry dies. Well, kind of dies. Dumbledore and Harry are discussing the Deathly Hallows, and Dumbledore is expressing to Harry how much more eligible he is than himself to be the one to unite the Hallows and become the so-called Master of Death. He says, "You are the true Master of Death because the true Master does not seek to run away from death. He accepts that he must die and understands that there are far, far worse things in the living world than dying." Now this quote stood out to me a lot, and in thinking about it, I realized how applicable it is to life. It's unlikely that any of us, like Harry or Lord Voldemort, have aspirations to become the Masters of Death, but we do seek to become the master of many other things in life, like money, power, or sometimes even other people. In fact, you could argue that the human experience on Earth has always been, in essence, a struggle for mastery over one's environment, with humans trying harder and harder to become the masters of nature, disease, and even the very Earth itself, which have remained out of our control for so long. However, when we humans strive for mastery over something, it's usually because we seek to either prevent it from doing something that harms us, or we seek to compel it to do something that we want it to do. In short, we seek mastery over the things that we want the most, or that we are most afraid of. Money, power, other people, even things like disease and old age, these are all things that we fear or covet, or perhaps even both. The problem is that for most people, far from being the masters of these things, we're actually controlled by them. If you truly believe that you need money to make you happy, you will always be able to be controlled by money. People that have truly mastered money are able to do so because they're not afraid of it, and they're not controlled by the desire for money either. If you're reasonably familiar with the Harry Potter series, think back to the ends of Book 5 and 6, both after Harry loses Sirius and after he loses Dumbledore. If Harry had known about the Hallows then, the result would have been disastrous, because at that time, he was so torn by grief for lost ones, he could never have been the Master of Death. Think about the power that the Mirror of Erised held over him in the first book, because of its ability to show him mere shadows of the people that he had lost. Harry was not prepared to become the Master of Death at that time, because death was still the master of him. He still believed that death, through the absence of the loved ones it had taken from him, had the power to dictate his happiness or his misery. Only when he claimed this power back as his own was he able to turn the tables. Harry's eventual Master of Death stands in stark contrast to Voldemort and his striving for mastery of the wizarding world. Voldemort's obsessed with gaining mastery not only over death, but over all things living. But his methods for achieving this mastery are to try to force them to bend to his will. Remember what Dumbledore tells Harry in the 6th book. "Have you any idea how much tyrants fear the people they oppress? All of them realize that one day, amongst their many victims, there is sure to be one that rises against them and strikes back." Voldemort's need for mastery over all things dead and living compels him to try and force this mastery upon them. But anytime you try to force something to be something it isn't, inevitably you will encounter resistance. It is this resistance that eventually leads to Voldemort's downfall. In an attempt to solidify his position by trying to eliminate the future enemy that he saw in the 1-year-old Harry, he created the enemy that could not rest until he, Voldemort, was finally defeated. In trying to force his mastery over others, he ensured that he could never achieve this mastery by sowing the seeds for his own destruction. Again, I do hope that nobody watching this video is trying to be the Master of Death or of all things living. But I do know that achieving mastery, whether of a skill, our resources, or even ourselves, is an important way of life. As we do this, we would all do well to remember that we can never be the master of something that controls us in any way. We must first fix our relationships with these things before we can ever master them. If we're afraid of them, we need to overcome that fear. If we're controlled by our desire for them, we need to let go of those desires. Thanks for watching. Peace and blessings.